God said to Abraham, kill me a son. Abe said, man, you must be putting me on. God said no. Abe said what? God said you can do anything you want, but the next time you see me coming, you better run. Abe said, where you want all this killing done? He said, do it out on Highway 61. Georgia Sam had a bloody nose. The welfare department wouldn't give him no clothes. He asked for Howard, where can I go? Howard said, there's only one place I know. Sam said, well, tell me quick, man, 'cause I gotta run. Howard just pointed off with his gun. He said, get out on Highway 61.
U.S. Highway 61 is a road that travels from the Canadian border to the Gulf of Mexico. Our drive, though, will focus on 61's most famous stretch, which lies between Memphis and New Orleans. Highway 61 is a road that I know very well. I grew up in a little town just off 61 called Marvell, Arkansas. Actually, we live in a tiny community known as Turkey Scratch. I got my start in the music business playing 4-H shows with my sister. But before long, I headed north up 61 to seek my fame and fortune. After spending some time in Toronto, I met some musicians from Canada. And the next thing you know, the road became our home, and we changed our name to the band. The road for me has taken many turns, but there's one stretch of it that always makes me feel at home. If you take this trip down Highway 61, your experiences are going to be unique and different from everybody else's. That's how 61 is. But the trick to getting the most out of this great drive is to take your time. Let yourself be inspired by the sights and sounds, the language, the taste of the food, the stories, and maybe most important of all, the blue notes of the music. Many malls and fast food restaurants don't line the streets along 61. It's a part of America that's fast disappearing. It's an experience we may not be able to have someday.
My wife Joanne and I were driving up Highway 61 this past Christmas Eve at twilight, and the Christmas Eve sunset to the west of that venerable old highway was something out of the Old Testament. And these little towns, we stopped off 3 or 4 of these little towns to do last-minute Christmas shopping. And it was something right out of a Hollywood film of the 1930s, with the land all around you and the Delta sunset, Christmas carols from the churches, cheap tinsel on Main Street. I felt as if I were Frank Capra.
Our first stop is Memphis, Tennessee, named after the great Egyptian city on the Nile. Memphis sits on the banks of another great river, the Mississippi. It's the largest city in Tennessee and one of the busiest river ports in the country. It was originally a site of a Chickasaw Indian village. The land was ceded to the United States by the Chickasaw in 1818 and was incorporated as a town in 1826. Memphis also carries a legacy of civil rights struggles during the 50s and 60s, peaked by the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King at the Lorraine Motel. Today, Memphis takes pride in its diversity. Although Memphis is the beginning of our trip, musically it's the culmination. It's where blues, country, and gospel music hit in a head-on collision which became rock and roll. Memphis has been called home by musical greats such as Elvis Presley, B.B. King, Al Green, Carl Perkins, Isaac Hayes, Rufus Thomas, and the legendary Beale Street band leader W.C. Handy. Completely different sound once it hit Beale Street. Maybe it was the lights, maybe it was the women, maybe it was the prohibited liquor, but whatever it was, the joint was jumping.
Till somebody gets killed.
The names of Beale Street regulars are legendary. Many have passed on now. But bluesman James Cotton is still around, and you'll find him still playing Beale Street.
61 was the road, you know. If you was coming to Memphis, it wasn't no other way to come. You had to come 61. Saturday evening, you get paid, you want to shake a little bit of loose, you come to Memphis, you know.
It's a big town.
Big town, come to the city.
What about some of the musicians, everybody you've met coming up and down 61?
The Renegade Mouth Moan, Rufus Thomas, Roscoe Gordon, Eddie Cleanhead Benson, B.B. King. I met them all right here. This is the place, man. Right here. Let's get together and let it all hang out. Let's do it.
There were some good little regular places around where you could kind of be the house band for a little bit, try some songs out on the crowd, stuff like that.
So there's a lot of things, places we played out in the country called juke houses.
Yeah.
Somebody's house, they take down a couple of beds and some on outdoors and
Moving stuff around.
move stuff around and get in and have a ball that night. House dancing, juke house.
Yeah, yard parties.
Corn whiskey and homebrew.
When I get together with James, I can feel the history of Beale Street. Give me 40 days and 40 nights since my baby said goodbye. Yeah, the rain's pouring down, but the river is running dry. Love can make an old man rich or break his heart, and I don't know which. Give me 40 days and 40 nights since I sat right down to cry. Yeah, the rain keeps pouring down, but the river is running dry. Life is love and love is life, and I need my honey come home tonight. When you visit Beale Street, you're going to feel it too. Before you head out of Memphis, you might want to stop by and pick up a delicious Glory Hallelujah pie, baked fresh by Memphis's own pie lady. She's another example of the heart and soul of the people of this area.
In 1987, my daughter, Eugenia Binkins, she and her friend Mark Jones, they were in Glenview Park and they were robbed, forced out of the car at gunpoint, and they both were shot in the head. Gina survived the gunshot, and the doctors had given her very little chance for recovery. She went through comas and seizures. Her body was in the infantile state for 4 months, and through prayer, she came out of it. I wanted my daughter to get up and walk, and I believed that she would. The state of Tennessee said that Gina wasn't rehabable, so therefore they wouldn't pay for the rehab. And I had some apples at home, faced with a lot of bills, so I said I was going to do my own fundraiser and bake my daughter back to health. So I started going around to door-to-door neighbors selling my pies. And the pies were $10, and nobody had ever heard in Memphis anybody selling a pie for $10. Okay. All right, sir, would you step over here, please? Finally, a lady, she bought the first pie. It kind of broke the ice, and in a matter of time, all the pies were sold. Miraculously, I sold $5,000 worth of pies in 1 week. Gina passed away 1994, my daughter, and after 6.5 years of struggling for her life. And it was like she was saying to me, Mom, I'm out of here, I've opened up doors for you, and she left in peace. So I send her my love.
Coming down 61, you'll follow the Mississippi River. I've respected it like you would your father. It's the longest, the one that drains the continent, the one that Huck and Jim went down, the one the music came up, the one T.S. Eliot called the slow brown god. If you take a riverboat ride on the Mississippi, you might feel like Mark Twain. When you cross the state line into Mississippi, once you've cleared the big grove of trees, one of the first things you'll notice is this ledge that follows you down the road. That's the levee.
The levees were a place of refuge when the floods did come, like the Great Flood of 1927. There were people living on the levee all the way from Memphis to Vicksburg. A flood is a fearsome thing. You hear about tornadoes and hurricanes and God knows what all, but a flood has a solidity to its destruction. That water comes at you and it gets everything in its way. And people live with that here.
The levees along the Mississippi are quite a feat of engineering. They were built by the government WPA camps during the 30s. When they were finished, the Corps of Engineers would boast, the Mississippi River is a tame and responsible member of American society. But the camps themselves were anything but tame. There were plenty of good people who packed the dirt and Bermuda grass of the levees, but the camps attracted a lot of rough customers too. Drifters who preyed upon the innocent. And folks around here will tell you that as many men died of murder in the camps as did those who died from the work. My mom and dad and my older sister, Modena, was a baby, and they lived in a farmhouse not too far from the levee where the people were working. One night they were having supper, and they heard a rattling at the door. They heard a rattling at the window. They knew there was somebody out there. A rattle at the back door. They knew there were a lot of people out there. Nothing to do, but my dad made a big show out of turning the lamp up brighter and saying in a loud voice to my mother, "Get Modena, we're getting out of here." Makes a big show out of taking up his shotgun, loading it up, getting behind my mom. Mom picks up the baby, picks up the lamp. They walk out the door. Nobody bothers them. They know they got to keep walking, and there's nothing to look back for. The food on the table was what it was all about.